there must be some kind of secret app, right? Or some method that you don't know yet, but they do. What is it? What do successful language learners do? Hi, I'm Lindsay, a language learning expert passionate about helping you learn languages better. And in this video, I'm going to share with you 10 things that successful language learners do, possibly different to many other language learners. But before we get into it, Grace and Space is happening very soon. This year's event is taking place from the 25th to the 28th of September. It's 4 days to just take a breath, pause, refresh with your languages, just reconnect with what's going on, and make sure that you can then leave the event feeling much more positive about everything and like you have a bit of direction. I'll share more about it at the end, but if you're ready to go now, you can get your ticket at lindsaydoeslanguages.com/grace and space, and I'll see you there. First up then, successful language learners focus on progress over perfection. So they're not over here worried about getting it right and therefore doing nothing. That is the biggest reason why people get held back, because they're holding themselves back because they think it has to be perfect before they try, before they share what they've tried with someone. Successful language learners instead focus on progress. Even if that progress is messy, if there's mistakes, that doesn't matter. It's still moving forward in the right direction. So that is number one. Number two is they use joy as a strategy, not a bonus. So it's really easy to think that language learning has to feel very much like it was in school, grammar drills, the serious stuff, you've got the textbook on the go, and the fun stuff is kind of secondary. We think, when I've done my grammar drills in the textbook, only then will I allow myself to watch an episode of that K-drama. No. Instead, successful language learners actually think to themselves, okay, how can I bring this K-drama into the learning? What can I learn from it? Rather than just leaving it as this aside. And if I've said it once, I'll say it again. Successful language learning needs to be fun, flexible, and functional. And that fun is this bit, right? This is where this comes in. Not just fun at the end. The whole thing, we want to be doing our best to tick those 3 F's and say, yes, it's functional, but it's also flexible and it's also fun. Number 3, successful language learners trust their intuition over flashy advice. It's very easy to get caught up in the line side of things. You start researching how you want to learn languages better, and all of a sudden, someone over here has the best method that you must use all the time, and someone over here has the best system that you must use all the time, and it gets really overwhelming. And so you go into that with good intentions, thinking, well, I just need to try that. That's not working. Okay, I need to try that. And all of this time is wasted time. Whereas successful language learners know that what they trust to work for them is going to work for them. There's a trust in that intuition. I call it trusting your language gut. Successful language learners don't wait until they're perfect to start. And this doesn't just mean perfect at the language. I'm also talking about perfect in terms of having the right perfect resources, having the perfect level of motivation, the perfect environment to learn in, all of that stuff. If we put too much pressure and weight on the importance of every single aspect of that, we're never going to start. So what do successful language learners do? Instead of waiting until everything is all aligned because there is no perfect time, spoiler alert, they start as and when they're ready. And it can be a small start. Starting to learn a language does not have to be something huge, or even restarting. It doesn't have to be something huge with this big life overhaul. It can be just a trickle, just something small that fits in, and then gradually it grows and becomes something more. Successful language learners know that they don't need perfection to get started. Successful language learners get comfortable being uncomfortable. That comfort with the discomfort is really important, especially because we've talked already about this idea of perfection holding us back. We need to be comfortable with discomfort if we're going to move past that. And of course, this is really understandable too. You don't want to feel uncomfortable. You want this to be something you enjoy. How does the joy tie in with the discomfort? When we're comfortable with the discomfort. That's how. Successful language learners know that fluency is a feeling. not a test score. Fluent, it is that word, right? It just gets held up as the holy grail, the end goal, the thing that we all want, but feels so far away. What if, instead of waiting for the perfect test score, the perfect teacher that says, yes, you are this level, correct, tick, you've done it? What if we decide that fluency is a feeling? And successful language learners know that that feeling of fluency comes before linguistic test perfect fluency. You need to be able to feel fluent, to feel like you can express yourself confidently and fearlessly and intuitively. That's really important for fluency. And that is what's going to help you to grow and to continue to get better so that you do then tick that traditional definition of fluency. Successful language learners treat mindset as a skill, not a side note. This one I think is really interesting because it's really easy to focus in on vocab, grammar, learning methods, right? Like the specifics of how we're going to learn that vocab or that grammar or how we're going to practice speaking, etc., and ignore the mindset side of things. But that is a huge mistake. And it's not your fault if you've made this mistake. It's just something that happens because we get really hyper-focused on wanting to get better at that stuff that we don't pay any attention to the mindset stuff. But successful language learners know that the mindset is just as important as everything else. Because mindset isn't this woo-woo, wishy-washy thing. It's something that is really ingrained in how we're going to show up to do all of that stuff, to do those activities and to learn that vocab and all of the things that are the very practical side of language learning. If in our head we're thinking, I'm a rubbish language learner, we're not going to be showing up in the same way as if we think, okay, I can do this, let's go. Successful language learners know how to rest without quitting. This one is really interesting because there is this idea that quitting is bad, first of all, and there is this misconception of what counts as quitting when it comes to learning a language. For example, I might be learning a language. In fact, I was learning Hindi earlier this year. And I thought, yeah, let's see what happens. I had no real goal, no real plan to go back to India or anything like that. But I thought it would happen at some point. And it felt like this is the most useful language for me to learn right now. Then it became very clear that actually I was going to be going to Korea. So I thought, okay, put the Hindi to one side, go back into Korean. And that does not mean that I have quit Hindi. It does not mean that I have failed. It does not mean I'm a bad language learner. It just means that I've put it on pause. And if we go back to those 3 F's that I mentioned and mention all the time, fun, flexible, and functional, this is the flexible. So knowing how to rest without quitting means that everything that you've set up, your own language system that you have going on, works when you need to take a break, when you need to take a rest because you're going on holiday or you're going out of town for a week for a funeral or a wedding or whatever it might be, or you're sick. And the last thing you want to do is sit and go through your language learning. That does not mean that that's the end. And I feel that a big reason a lot of people feel this way is because of streaks, right? Streaks can be a great motivator to get you back in the app, to track your habits, etc. But it can also have this opposite unintended side effect of then making you feel that if you miss a day, that's the end. On the other hand, successful language learners know that if they miss a day or if they're sick or if they need to rest for any reason, they know exactly what to do to get back on that horse and to get back into things without quitting. Successful language learners learn how to learn. So obviously, I teach people how to learn languages. I'm a little bit biased on this one, but it is so true. The most successful language learners that I encounter are the ones that recognize the importance of learning how to learn. Much like mindset, it's a really easy area to just dismiss and think, I'll do that later. I'll think about that later. I'll deal with that later. But when we do that, we're doing ourselves the biggest disservice, because if we start now, the earlier that you start, let's say today, to learn how to learn languages and to learn how you learn languages best, that is going to help you from today, right? It's not a case of you start and then you finish learning how to learn in one day. Of course not. It is this lifelong process of continually learning more and tweaking and adjusting and new tools coming into existence and all of these things. But that's kind of also why you want to start now. And recognizing that is a big advantage that successful language learners have. And finally, successful language learners don't do it all. They do what matters. This one is especially true if you're learning a language with lots of options for resources out there. French, German, Spanish, English, all of those languages that are very big and popular in the language learning market. It can feel so overwhelming trying to decide what you want to use. Now, successful language learners know that they don't need to use everything. They know that it's nice to have all of those options, but it does not have to be a case of needing the best, the best, the best, the best, because everyone's going to tell you they're the best. So you have to determine what's the best for you. And what's interesting is this might vary from language to language, from level to level, from situation to situation. For example, what I'm using right now to learn Korean is a very different set of resources to what I've used previously to learn other languages. There's some crossover, some things are the same, and some of those things I know are going to work every time. They're the things that matter. And then there's a few other things that are slightly different this time. But the key part of that is that I'm not doing everything. I'm not saying to myself, okay, let's get an app on board. Oh wait, every app has Korean, I'm going to use them all. No, I've picked one app and that is my app for Korean. And one more thing successful language learners do, drum roll, they come to Grace in Space. Woo! So as I mentioned at the start, Grace in Space is an online virtual retreat. It is happening this year from the 25th to the 28th of September. You are invited. I would love for you to come along and get your ticket. And this is an event where every year, as I'm putting this together, I'm thinking a couple of things. Number one, what have I learned in the past year? Number two, I'm thinking, what have I been asked most in this past year? What are people getting stuck on? What are people really struggling with and they want support with? That's what Grace in Space is all about. But there's only 4 taught sessions. This is not like a marathon event where you've got loads and loads to get through and you end feeling inspired but really overwhelmed. There's 4 taught sessions. This is the biggest event ever because we have this mixture of live sessions as well to support that. So you're welcome to hop on in as and when you can. We've got hot seat coaching where you can get personal coaching from me. We've got co-study, we've got Q&A, we've got show and tell. All of these things are going to be going on. All of that is included, including 2 weeks replay access in your ticket for just $50 US. Such a steal. You can get your tickets now at lindsaydoeslanguages.com/Grace in Space. And if you're watching this after the event, don't worry, you can hop on my email list, you'll get updates for future events, and you'll get my ultimate language resource list, which is really rather good, if I say so myself. And you can get that at lindsaydoeslanguages.com/list. As always, thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, hit like, subscribe, and tell a friend so we can all learn languages better.